All right, we're going to go ahead and get started, and we're going to talk about multiplying rationals today, and they're pretty much just like yesterday. So I'm actually going to start with like number 4 because it's a little bit easier to look at to get the concept than it is number 1. So if we're looking at number 4, everything is already factored out. Remember, I told you yesterday you want to factor as much as you can and then mark out. When we multiply, it's the same thing, but it doesn't matter which fraction it's in. So if it's on the top and the bottom, regardless of what fraction, you can mark it out. So for example, this x plus 4, there's one on the top and this is on the bottom. Okay, so it's kind of like you're just extending this fraction bar out. So it's just like yesterday. All right, so then x minus 9 is on the bottom and on the top. And that's the only things that we can mark out. So when we finish, on the top, we have x plus 6 and x plus 7. On the bottom, x plus 1. So that's your simplified. Don't forget your discontinuities. So we have 2 wholes. One whole is, this is positive 4, so one whole is at negative 4. We have a negative 9 factor, so a whole at positive 9. And then the last one is a vertical asymptote. And since we have a positive 1 on the bottom, there's a negative 1 discontinuity. That's what it's going to look like. Did your quiz have discontinuities on it yesterday? Okay. Glad I went over that then. All right. So go to number 3. Go to number 3. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. All right. Same thing. I'm going to put these in parentheses. We just kind of extend that bar out. If it's the same on the top and the bottom, we can mark it out. So we're going to mark out k minus 9. We're going to mark out k plus 4, and that's all that's left. So only on the top, we have 7k squared, k minus 7. And then, sorry, should be a k. What can k not equal? Say it again. Negative 4 and 9. That's it. There's nothing on the bottom, so we don't have to worry about that. I'm going to go ahead and do number 5, and then I'll go back to number 1. Again, number 5 is already factored. So anything the same on the top and the bottom, we can mark out. So we have 3x plus 10. We have x minus 5. And then if you look, there's a 3x and a 3x. So we can mark those out. The only thing that I did not mark out was the 5, but there's lots of discontinuities. So any variable that you marked out is a discontinuity. So the first one that we marked out was the x minus 5, which gives us the positive 5. So you already knew how to do that one. You marked out 3x. To solve it, we would divide by 3 and get x equals 0. So there's a discontinuity. Let me write it the right way. We simplified to 5. X cannot equal 5 or 0. And then we also had the 3x plus 10. When we set it equal to 0 and solve it, we subtract 10 and divide by 3. So there's your final. Okay, so don't forget when you mark out x's, and you didn't have to put the 3 with this 3x. Okay, you just can put the 0 and it's fine. All right, so on number 1, if we go back to number 1, if you see anything on the top and the bottom that you can cross out, you can go ahead and do that. So the 3's will cross out. That does not make any points of discontinuity because it's a number. It's only letters that do that, or variables. Also, if you look at 4 over 6, those will reduce by 2. So we get 2 over 3. And then we just squish them together. So on top, our only number is a 2. We have 3 p's on the top. On the bottom, we just have a 3. We didn't mark out any variables, and we didn't leave any variables on the bottom, so there are no points of discontinuity. This is it. All right. Number 2, again, treat it like it's a full big fraction. 9 can reduce with this 3 over here, so it'll cancel out. Nothing else number-wise will reduce. There's only letters on the bottom or variables on the bottom. So this is as good as it gets. Multiply straight across. 3 times 4 is 12. On the bottom, the only number you have is 5 and 5 x's. We didn't mark out any variables, so we don't have any holes, but we do have variables in the denominator. So if you set it up, and I'm just going to show you how to solve this just in case you get something like this. We're going to divide by 5 so that we can get x to the 5th equals 0. To get rid of this power, you do the 5th root. And it's not going to matter because it is 0. So x cannot equal 0. But I just wanted to show you how to solve an equation like that, just to remind you. Any questions so far? All right, pop down to number 6. This one is not factored. Now the a minus 2 and the a plus 1 is factored. But this top is not. What can I take out of that? Because we always want to do GCF first. What can I take out of 3a squared and 3a? 3a. That leaves 1a in the beginning. If I take everything out, remember it leaves a 1. So then we don't have this anymore. You don't have to look at it. All right. What can I cross out? The whole 3a will cross out. What else? A plus 1. Nothing else will cross out. I'm left with just a minus 2. But I have points of discontinuity at. I crossed out a single a makes a 0. Okay, a single a makes a 0. I also crossed out a plus 1. So negative 1 will be a discontinuity. I didn't leave anything in the bottom, so there are no vertical asymptotes. So again, it's the same exact thing we did yesterday. If we look at number 7 on the top, we have the cheater method. How do we have the cheater method? We have 3 terms, but no number in front. There are no GCFs. So factors of 70 that add to negative 17 are n minus 10 and n minus 7. So then that cancels out. On the bottom, we have n minus 2, a 1, and n minus 7. And again, I like to put them in parentheses so you know you can't mark it out unless it's together. Okay, that's got to be together. So what can we mark out on this one? N minus 7. Anything else we can mark out? I don't see anything. What's left on top? Does the 1 matter? No. On the bottom, what do we leave? N plus 2. And then we need our points of discontinuity. I marked out a negative 7, so a positive 7. So there's 1 hole at 7. I do have a variable in the bottom. It's a plus 2. So a minus 2 is going to be a point of discontinuity, and that will be a vertical asymptote. It's literally that simple. The only way it gets harder is if you have to slide and divide. And that's easy. It's just time consuming. Okay. So that's literally as hard as it gets. What are your factors of 21 that add to 10? So this is going to change to n plus 7, n plus 3. And then on the bottom over here, we have an n plus 7 that I'm going to group together. If it's the same on the top and the bottom, we can mark it out. So the n plus 7 marks out. You cannot mark out the 3 or the N. These go together and it has to look exactly the same. Okay, so don't try to mark anything else out. So on the top, I left N plus 3. On the bottom, I left 3N. I marked out a plus 7. So I have a minus 7 discontinuity, a hole. I left a single N on the bottom. That's a vertical asymptote at 0. Okay, remember single variables give a 0. And what I mean by single variables, it doesn't have add or subtract. If it's N squared, it's still going to be 0. Y'all got it? Okay, so look at number 9. Again, it's all factoring. These are easy factorings. So the first one is, oh, sorry, y'all. First one is cheater method. What are your factors of negative 90 that add to 1? They're going to be 10, yep, and negative 9. And then we mark that out. On the bottom, it's only 2 terms, so that's either going to be GCF or pairs and share. We're going to do GCF of 9. And we get R plus 8. Factors of 24 that add to 11 are 8 and 3. And factors of negative 27 that add to negative 6 are negative 9 and positive 3. Right. Tell me some stuff the same on the top and the bottom. Anything else? And R plus 3, perfect. All right, I don't see anything else. So the only thing I didn't mark out was R plus 10 over 9. We have lots of points of discontinuity. R cannot equal. We have a plus 8, so a negative 8. We had a negative 9, so a positive 9. And we had a positive 3, so a negative 3. The last thing you look for is something left in the denominator. And there wasn't, so this does not have a vertical asymptote. That is as good as it gets. All right, so look at number 10 and tell me what's wrong with the top. It's not like a super tricky question. What's weird about the top? Yeah, it's in the back, right? So we're going to flip it around. The way we're going to flip it around, we don't like it backwards. So we're going to pull out a negative 1. And that just changes their signs and flips it around. So it just flips it. When we have p squared and 81, remember 2 terms is either GCF or pairs and share. There's not much else that you can do. So this is not GCF, but it is pairs and share because 81 is 9 and 9. So keep that negative 1. We're going to have a p plus 9 and a p minus 9. And all that goes away. Everything else is very cut and dry. Factors of negative 54 that add to 3 are p plus 9 and p minus 6. We have a p minus 6 on the top. We're just going to group it together. And then factors of negative 36 that add to negative 5 are negative 9 and positive 4. So remember, I told you a long time ago, factoring was going to come back in. All right, what can I mark out? Plus 9, minus 6, and minus 9. Nothing else to mark out. Look what's left on top. The only thing you have left is a negative 1. On the bottom, you have p plus 4. And then we have to do our points of discontinuity. So we marked out a negative 9, so a positive 9. We marked out a positive 9, so a negative 9. We marked out a negative 6, so a positive 6. And then we left in the bottom a +4. So -4 is a vertical asymptote. That's it. So 9, -9, and 6 are holes in the graph. Any questions 1 through 10? Again, the only way it gets harder is it gets longer, okay? So slide and divide is what'll make it longer. Let's see if we have one. I don't think we have. Let me look on your quiz and see if you have, that's all we have. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. And I'm going to look in your quiz today. And if I see one that's slide and divide, I'll go over it and you'll have a quiz answer. So just bear with me for a minute. GCFs. Nope, you don't have one. So no slide and divide today, but it probably will come up soon. Okay. So that's all the notes that I have. I'm going to stop recording and I'm going to let you